July last year at Manchester Airport, and the man in pale blue at the ticket machine is suspected of an earlier assault. As police try to arrest him, this happens. The CCTV of punches, kicks and elbows was shown to the jury in the trial of the two brothers accused of assaulting the three officers. Punches being thrown, even as officers attempted to use their tasers.
This man in this vehicle has just entered a lady's property without her consent, and these officers have said it's not an offence. They're letting him go. They're letting him go. Officer, how is that not an offence? How is it not an offence entering someone's house?
That poor lady.
Regardless, she didn't want him in the house.
Is alarm fear and discretion?
Lady, bro.
Is alarm fear and discretion offence? Is she not alarmed even in
You're letting him go.
Welcome to London. Sare dunya barbadi hai.
An illegal migrant racked up nearly 1 million views online with a step-by-step guide to crossing the channel on a small boat. A Sun probe has uncovered a series of videos that shows the internet influencer boasting from a 4-star asylum hotel that it was his dream to come to the UK. Last night, Nigel Farage called the video an advert for crossing the channel. The man, known as Alexandra420 online, has 70,000 fans and detailed his perilous dinghy crossing in 8 different viral clips on TikTok. It's thought that the internet star, said to be from Afghanistan, crossed alongside 434 others on Saturday after leaving Calais in northern France at around 4 AM. His posts began with a 13-second video from the middle of the channel, which showed a French lifeboat alongside their dinghy. The next 16-second clip showed him wearing a bright orange life jacket and pointing to the sky as the boat continued to power across the channel. A third video, bizarrely set to the theme tune of US TV drama Prison Break, showed the dinghy surrounded by massive freight ships, while in a fourth, he dipped his foot into the water while wearing Flash designer trainers.
The shocking scale of serious crime committed by migrants living in hotels and communities across Britain can be revealed by the Mail on Sunday today. An investigation by this newspaper has revealed that at least 312 asylum seekers have been charged with an astonishing 708 alleged criminal offences in just 3 years, including rape, sexual assault, attacking emergency workers and theft. The Moes probe exposes how among the thousands of asylum seekers who have arrived in recent years, including those who have crossed the channel in small boats, are dangerous predators and criminals who have repaid the generosity of British taxpayers by committing serious offences. Our research, based on an analysis of court records, provides a snapshot of crimes recorded at 70 of the 220 taxpayer-funded hotels being used to house migrants.
There is a silent, systematic dismantling of this country taking place. It's not a sudden collapse, but a slow, calculated erosion of our sovereignty, our security, and our national wealth. And it's happening in plain sight, orchestrated by a political class that appears to be acting not in our interest, but in the interest of foreign powers and globalist ideologies. This is not a conspiracy theory. This is an evidence-based charge. Today, we will examine the downfall of the UK. Let's begin with the basics: energy and transport, the essentials of a functioning nation. For decades, British citizens have been told that privatisation would lead to efficiency and lower prices. The reality has been a catastrophic failure, amounting to nothing less than a mechanism for wealth extraction. Consider our energy. As you pay your crippling electricity bill, understand where that money is going. A vast portion of our energy infrastructure is in foreign hands. The most glaring example is EDF Energy, the company operating our nuclear power plants like Hinkley Point C and Sizewell. EDF is not a private enterprise in the typical sense. It is almost entirely owned by the French state. Let me be clear, the government of France is a majority shareholder in the power that heats British homes. The profits generated from your bill, money that should be reinvested into our own grid and lowering our costs, are funneled back to Paris. It's a direct transfer of wealth from the British public to the French state. The story is identical on our railways. Why does a last-minute ticket in Britain cost a fortune for a service that is routinely delayed, overcrowded and dilapidated? Look at the operators. Keolis, a major UK operator, is 70% owned by SNCF, the state-owned national rail company of France. The profits extracted from British commuters paying the highest rail fares in Europe are used to subsidise a superior, cleaner and far more affordable service for French citizens. They are running our essential services as a cynical cash cow operation, and our government has willingly signed the contracts to allow it. They have sold our vital arteries to the lowest bidder and left us with a third world service at a first world price. But this cynical relationship with France does not end there. It gets far, far worse. The British state has become ruthlessly efficient at policing the speech of its own citizens. Under legislation like the Malicious Communications Act, British people face investigation and prosecution for expressing offensive opinions online. Yet when it comes to defending our literal borders, the state demonstrates a level of apathy that borders on complicity. The primary source of illegal immigration into this country is the small boat crisis across the English Channel, a crisis that begins and should end on the shores of France. The British government has handed over hundreds of millions of pounds of our taxpayer money to the French authorities to try and stop these crossings. But what are we getting for this vast investment? We've all seen the videos, footage widely available online showing French police officers standing on their own shores watching passively as overcrowded dinghies are pushed out to sea towards our coast.
That is empirical proof that migration is still happening between this coast and Britain. We've watched these people, about 40 of them, carrying a very large inflatable boat, putting it in the water, crowding onto it. They're now trying to get the engine working. And they've done all that in full sight of the French police, a unit of whom have been stationed on the beach and have been watching. A police helicopter came overhead and was watching what happened. And they can't say they hadn't been warned, because about half an hour before this, another boat set off. Same thing, same sort of boat, also with about 40 people on it. And it left these shores heading over towards the British coast. And on that occasion too, the French police watched and did nothing. We asked them why that was the case. Now, nobody told us officially, but I spoke to one of the officers who said that there were only 8 of them confronted by what was about 40 people on the boat and another 40 people around them. The message being quite clearly that they thought they were outnumbered. The other thing I think to take from this is that sometimes you can get the impression that people smuggling between Europe and the British coast is all very, very subterfuge. It's done at night, it's done in the small hours, and very often it is. But look around us. This is broad daylight. These people carried their boat along a beach in full view, not just of the police, but of dog walkers, of passers-by, and of us. This is what people trafficking looks like sometimes. Not always that slick undercover operation, sometimes as brazen as that.
In some cases, the situation is even more cynical. French naval vessels have been documented shadowing these boats, acting not as interceptors but as escorts, ensuring they make it safely to the invisible line where they become Britain's problem.
So here we are, middle of the English Channel. We're right on the edge of British and French territorial waters. It's a pretty calm day. Already there have been 3 migrant boats spotted. All of these are classed as search and rescue missions. But the truth of it is, this is a massive criminal enterprise that is organising all of this, making vast sums of money. You can see the boats absolutely packed, all being charged a minimum of €5,000 each for the criminal gangs to make this crossing. I mean, you can't believe when you see how close the water is to the edge. I mean, how massively overcrowded this is. We could put them under tow, but there's no point because we know that Border Force, the vessel, is on its way from Dover, so we will just kind of keep guard here. We are now going back into French waters. What we know is that a French naval vessel has been seen escorting boats out of French waters to get them into British waters, then they're off their hands. So the big French naval vessel now has gone. They've done their job. They've escorted that little dinghy on the left there into British waters. They've now left their own rib off the big vessel just to make sure they're safe until the handover to the border force. They're even trying to prevent us filming it with the French naval vessel trying to get in the way of the handover. We have just been told by UK Coast Guard that they will commandeer this vessel if we film the handover between the French Navy and the British Border Force. So it's not just the French threatening us, it's now, somebody here I'm out with, they're threatening him with his living if we tell the truth about this story. This has got to be out there. Home Secretary, you've got to act.
Let's be absolutely clear about what this is. The same French state that profits from our energy bills and runs our railways for their own gain is now actively facilitating an illegal migration crisis on our border, a crisis we are paying them to prevent. This isn't just a failure of policy, it's a transaction. The French state gets paid to look the other way, absolving itself of its responsibility for the thousands of migrants camped on its coastline. And the UK government gets to maintain a crisis that justifies vast expenditure and authoritarian rhetoric, without ever solving the problem. The only loser is the British public, whose safety, security and finances are sacrificed for this political theatre. This betrayal at our border directly fuels the growing perception of a two-tier justice system on our streets. Public anger is reaching a boiling point, seen in protests in communities like Epping, sparked by serious crimes allegedly committed by asylum seekers. When people see a government that will no longer defend its own borders, but will prosecute its own citizens for some hurty words on Facebook, they conclude the system is no longer working for them. This erosion of trust is a direct consequence of this deliberate dereliction of duty. So where does this leave us? We've examined the evidence, a nation whose essential services are cash cows for foreign states, a nation whose borders has been dissolved through a cynical transactional arrangement, a nation whose people are policed for their opinions but not protected from crime. Faced with this, the establishment expected silence, resignation, but they were wrong. Something is stirring in this country. We are now seeing the inevitable backlash, not from the top, but from the bottom up. Ordinary people are taking to the streets in towns and cities across the UK, from Epping to Skegness, protesting the failures that have been imported directly into their communities. They are dismissed and ignored by the media and politicians, but they're not going away. And this resistance has found a voice online. We are seeing a digital rebellion, a cultural pushback. I'm talking about the Raise the Flag operation that is swept across X and other social media. Hundreds of thousands of people in the simple act of defiance are taking to the streets of the UK and flying the St George's flag and Union Jack. Predictably, the establishment and its mouthpieces in the media have met this with scorn. They have deployed their most potent weapon, shame. They call it racist. They label a simple act of flying your own country's flag as a far-right signal.
Well, I think this is the problem. It's not that the far right have co-opted the flag. It's the fact that we don't seem to understand what this country is and the history of these symbols. So both of these flags which you've displayed here, those are the flags which flew on ships which enslaved my ancestors. Those are the flags which the British Army marched into places like India, Pakistan, Bengal, Africa, and colonized 25% of the world. The reason the far right picks up these flags and has consistently, since the 60s, 70s, since my parents' generation have been in this country, is because these flags represent the racism which they are putting out into the world. And I would just point out, this campaign of putting these flags up, this is not some benign, oh, let's just be patriotic. Go and search, Operation Raise the Colours, and you'll find the same far right, Little England, this nonsense spewing about all the migrant hotels, all this, that's what that's about. People aren't putting up this flag to celebrate Britain. They're putting up this flag to remind us that Britain is white and we shouldn't be here.
Let's recognise this for what it is, a desperate tactic to demoralise and silence dissent. They want to make you ashamed of your own flag, of your own identity, because a people with no pride are a people who are easy to rule. They conflate patriotism with racism because they have no other argument. But it's not working. This simple, powerful act of raising our flag is a symbol of an awakening. It is a sign that the British people have not been fully subdued. It's a declaration that despite the managed decline we are being subjected to, our spirit is not yet broken. What we have spoken about today is bleak, but the final chapter has not yet been written. It is being written now, on the streets, in our communities, and online, one flag at a time. The question we must now force ourselves to ask is not simply, how did this happen? The real question is far darker. Is this staggering incompetence, Or is it by design?